Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.
One. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to one-on-one at Legacy Maker Sports Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy, Darrell Owens. We are back for another edition of One-on-One here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. We are here at episode 63. I keep saying to myself, I still can't believe I'm even this far ahead in the game in the one-on-ones, but we are a little bit past our second year. But I'm excited. But today we've got a great mind in the world of sports, and I'm not just saying statistics or he knows it all, man. I'm not just saying that to blow the toot his horn here, but I mean, when I'm telling you, if you need to go somebody that has a vast knowledge in just sports journalism as a whole, this gentleman right here is the man, my guy. On air. Oh, wait a minute, that thing disappeared on me. My on air talent at 96.5 FM, my man Danny Thompson. Danny, how you doing, brother? How's everything going?
I mean, you got to think the Blake intro out. Feels like, Sting was about to come from the Raptors. We just come out SummerSlam. I mean, listen, no, it's episode 63. We're going to call this the Gene Upshaw edition,
Hey,
the number 63. That. But no, it's a pleasure to be on the show. I've watched almost every episode because everybody that comes on the show always has some different perspective to bring. So I guess I got to figure out something that nobody else has ever said before.
Hey, there you go. Well, no, it's just an honor, man. Like, it really is an honor to have you on because, when you're starting to build, trying to figure out, all right, who do I want on, and this podcast for me is not, no, let me just grab anybody in. I don't, that's not the way I look at it. I look at it like I want people on that, could eventually either help people in their growth in this industry, or if I'm having an athlete on, somebody that can inspire somebody to take that next step, and that was my thing. So it's funny because I had you on my list, and then when I made the initial post and you was like, me, I was like, yeah, perfect, Danny, great. So I hadn't even had a chance to reach out completely. He'd already jumped on. I said, this is perfect. I appreciate you, brother. I truly appreciate you.
Appreciate the honor to be on, my friend. So let's get to it.
Yeah, well, look, we got a lot to get into. But before we get too deep, obviously we had some tragic news today in the world of sports, finding out that the absolutely legendary Bill Russell passed away at the age of 88, and it's something that, yeah, we know he's 88 years old. Obviously, he's lived a full life, and he's done so many great things for the community, for Black Americans, Americans in general. He just done so much great things beyond basketball. But this man deserves his love. And I know when everybody speaks GOAT, Danny, and we hear Jordan, we hear Kareem occasionally, we hear LeBron. And I think a lot of people, because of the era, sometimes we look past Bill Russell, but I think everybody respected Bill Russell. I just wanted your thoughts on Bill Russell, the legend. And it's so sad. I hate to say we lost him too soon, but it feels like he'd even know he's lived a full life.
I mean, when you look at, just legends in general, there's a reason why this man has trophies named after him. I mean, he still has something no one's ever done before. He won a championship as a player and a coach. Can you imagine Greg Popovich being on the court and, averaging 20 rebounds a game and also calling the plays at the same time?
Right.
Can you imagine Michael Jordan trying to coach the Bulls in 96 while scoring 30 points a game? He did it in an era where no one's ever done it. One of the first, I think the first African-American head coach in the league. They see on the bottom of the scroll, 11-time champion, 5-time MVP. You can talk about the era, we can say, oh, there was, X, Y, and Z, but he was in an era that was different. And so you can never take away the man's greatness. There's a reason why he won 11 championships. Basketball is a team sport. And he just happened to be the centerpiece of literally a dynasty in basketball. And, he was a good human being in general. It's just, it sucks. You say 88 full life, but you knew you never want to think this day was going to happen. But I mean, there's so much you can say about Bill Russell. That's a whole entire podcast by itself. But it's sad, but this man has done more for the league than people will ever give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, it's something for me that like I said, it definitely was like, wow, man, I couldn't believe it. And now I know, I mean, I'm glad to know that he went peacefully. And I'm glad that he, we were able to see him. I will say this. I'm glad that he was able to see people truly starting to appreciate him, even after, after all he's done. Like a newer generation, I think, has appreciated him after, seeing the MVP, is the East, not the Eastern Conference Final.
NBA
Yeah,
Finals.
the Eastern Conference Final that's named after him, or am I thinking
NBA Finals?
NBA Finals. That's Magic, my fault, and Bird. But it's good to see, people getting that opportunity to see that, that they was named after him. I just think it's a really good deal, man. It's just good that people are going to finally get a chance to truly, appreciate him.
Yeah, I mean, when you see Finals MVP, they say, "Oh, the Bill Russell Award." For people who don't know basketball, and you hear that name, you're gonna instantly Google or find some kind of YouTube to know who Bill Russell is. So, like you mentioned, his legacy is going to live on, and he's just going to impact generations. Not only from previous generations, but the generations now and generations going forward.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things for me. We're going to get an opportunity to see, him do so much, so much good, and or we had an opportunity to see him do so much good. So truly appreciate him. Now before we get rolling into everything, we like to start off with the check-in. Now in the check-in, we want Danny. I know things have been, it's I know it's a little bit of a tough week for you, brother. I know that, personally. But I wanted to check in on you to see how you, your family, and everybody has been doing during these tough, during COVID, and now that it's kind of out of the way, but we've been through it. Like, how was that experience for you? How are you and your family now? How are things for you now?
It's funny, if you look at the last week, for me and my family, it's kind of a hard week for us, and Darrell, you know about this more than anybody I know. Monday, my wife's, the anniversary of my mom, my wife's mother passing away, was on Monday, and then Wednesday was the anniversary of my brother passing away. And so for my wife, I think it's going on. For my wife, it's 3 years, and for me, it's 14 for my brother. And no matter what happens, when people impact your life, people, whether it be a parent, whether it be a sibling, everybody's relationship with different people are different, but it hit us all at the same time. And, as far as the week goes, just going through all of those things at one time and just trying to keep the spirits up in the house has been, it's been a challenge. Our daughter's here from Florida for the month. So making sure that we're able to still be 100%, of being parents at the same time of, going through it has been a bit of a challenge this week. And when you go back to COVID, man, COVID, it changed lives. I mean, for me, it definitely changed my life. I think I'm the only person that moved 3 times during COVID. So I lived in 3 cities in COVID. So I started in Orlando, and I got a phone call to come home. I've had, some health situations at some point in time, but I got the call to come home to be with my mom. And then during the same time of COVID, we all have our troubles, but then I have blessings to come out of it, because I think I'm one of the few people in the country who dated, got engaged, went through a whole wedding process, and got married, moved to the city, all in an 8-month period while dealing with COVID. So I had a COVID relationship while getting married. So, and living in 2 different cities. So, you can look at the negativity part, but you look at the day, Sunday, went to church, and realized it's a blessing. So everything happens for a reason. But as this very moment, I can look at my family. We have all of us in one house, we're all living, we're all surviving, we're all thriving, and to be able to take it day by day, it's nothing but a blessing, to be honest with you. But COVID, it changed sports, but for each person, Darrell, you went through it too. It changed all of us. And I think we will look back at COVID when we get older and our children get older. We have grandkids and we talk about COVID. They're going to talk about COVID the same way they talk about the Great Depression. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing. Like you're growing up and you hear about all the Great Depression. You hear about all that crazy stuff that happened in history, but you never think that you would live through it. You know what I'm saying? Like you never think that you would live through it. And just having to kind of sit here and live through, and I know it was a different version, but just living through what we went through in those 2 years, it was like, boy, this is crazy. Like, what is going on here?
Like, you think about it, it's like, okay, you talk about the Great. We went through a global pandemic. Like literally, it wasn't just us being in Virginia. We didn't go through this in Virginia. This is a worldwide thing. And if you did not catch COVID, congratulations. But I'm pretty sure you knew somebody who did, or know 2 or 3 people who did. Some people caught COVID more than once. Some people caught COVID multiple times. Right. COVID has affected all of us in different ways. We learned, like you said, listen to Karl Anthony Towns, what happened with his family with COVID. We had a great debate about COVID when it came to vaccinations. It not only affected, an entire city of New York City, it affected the NBA. It affected Major League Baseball. Right. We're just talking about COVID laws. I'm not talking about the COVID just interrupting play all of a sudden. The aftermath of COVID costed, a team a potential chance at the NBA championship. It costed, on the professional side, but on the business side, you had a whole city of workers that could not go to work because of COVID restrictions.
It
was crazy. Now,
it was definitely a crazy time, Danny. Like I said, I had so much loss. There's so much loss last year. And, I go back and look at it and I reflect, and I just said, man, I kept telling myself, I said, well, it was hard, but I want to make sure that I live strong for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and COVID hit us tough. I mean, it was just on so many different levels, but, I just want to make sure that I do right by them. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that are no longer here because of it. And, it was tough times, but I think it starts to feel like, I think of the nation itself, it kind of feels like I don't want to say it's over, but they're looking past it. They're not talking about it as much as they used to. So, so it's like we're paying attention to it, but not fully paying attention to it. So all I can say is things can only go up from here, right?
That's what Buster Moon says and saying it can only go up from here. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we go through it all. We've survived it, for the most part, and we live to tell about it, and we want to honor the people that did not make it out of it. That's why, Darrell, I know you work as hard as you do. I work as hard as I do. The multitude of people, and I just speak of journalists in general, just bust their ass every single day. And they work harder because of the people that are not able to see them in their element. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, for those out there who've struggled, just know that we know, and just keep pushing and keep striving. Now let's get into a little bit of good stuff here. I know get the emotional stuff out the way at the beginning here, but I couldn't go past without saying something about Bill and checking in on you, brother. But let's talk about where little Danny, we're talking about 7, 8, 9-year-old Danny got his passion from sports from. Can you tell me where little Danny got his passion from sports from?
So it's funny. My mom will tell the story. My dad will tell the story. So born June 1st, 1983 during the NBA finals. So my mom is at the time a diehard Sixers fan. Now I still question the fact of her being a Sixers fan to this day, because my mom was in love with Dr. J. So that's really what it was. So my mom loved Dr. J.
It was lust.
It might have been. It's Dr. J for crying out loud. So being in Hawaii, this is before Twitter, this is before TikTok or even live television games. So being on the West Coast and being on the extreme West Coast, everything was tape delayed. So people don't remember those days where the NBA came on at 12:05 because they couldn't show nothing else on. So my mom's water broke and she refused to go to the hospital. So they put a television with the finals on inside the delivery room area so she can watch the game. The good news is they got it in there, and I came out after the game was over, so everybody was happy.
Everybody was good.
Everybody was happy.
Everybody was good.
Mom will tell you, like 9 months old, drooling on the sports page, drooling in the stat section, and my love for it grew. My dad coached basketball in the military, so basketball has always been part of me. So I played sports as a child, but being in the age of the late 80s, you know, the first thing that we saw was video games. So you had Nintendo, you had Sega, you know. I didn't have a Nintendo. My next door neighbor did. So I went to his house to play Magic Johnson Fast Break. You know?
Oh, shoot. Oh, man.
So this is before Technical. This is Magic Johnson Fast Break and 10-yard fights. You know, MLB baseball with only numbers. You know, those were the games I remember playing as a child.
Bases loaded. Look, bases
loaded. You know, my guy from Boston who always hits home runs every time.
Bruh, Pace.
That's my
Pace.
Yes,
Pace is a legend.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I think well, Pace was with Jersey, but Pace had like 60 home runs, monster. And then his cleanup guy, Bay, had like 35 home runs. I'm like, bro, who's pitching to those guys? And then Valdez was the starting pitcher. Don't tell me why. No, I got it right back here.
Yeah,
right
I
there.
know.
I got
so it's like,
right there.
So I used to play with my cousin from New York. So I used to hit Pace all the time. Like he used to be able to play. I used to drill him.
Hey, bro.
His only drill him. I would go after. I'll go head hunting. His only thing was, you know, in bases loaded, that was a game that baseball players actually fought. So when your guy went to the mound to charge, he's ejected.
Hey, yo, right there used to be crazy. I love that game. Oh my god, that's a good one. That's a classic. That's a classic.
So I played video games. I mean, for me, my first console, it was the original Sega, but the first time that the real sports love hit me was Christmas. I mean, like I said, I watched ESPN as a child, so I always watched ESPN. For me, ESPN memories. I have the weird memories of ESPN. So I used to fake staying up on Saturday nights, 4 and 5 years old, watching arena football at 12 a.m., watching Detroit and Tampa and Orlando, and using Legos to build stadiums like I'm actually at the game and those things.
That's great.
So and then that turned into, like I said, playing the Sega Genesis, and my first Christmas having Bulls versus Lakers, and then Pat Riley basketball with the players dribbling the medicine balls.
Man, I remember. My cousin had Bulls versus Lakers and Bulls versus Blazers too. Let me make them.
I had them all. I had the whole series, and then getting NHL hockey, NHL '93, and then just enjoying sports. And so the love for sports happened then. Living on a military base and moving to Charlotte, that's where the military town in Jacksonville, and then just watching it and being engulfed in it, you know, and learning stats. You know, those are the games, Darrell. We didn't have full seasons, and if they did, they didn't hold stats. So we're having paper and pencil, writing games and playing games and keeping that stuff in order and keeping the standings. Learning for journalism, actually, for the television side, watching TNT basketball on Friday nights and watching WG on Saturdays. You know, this is when TNT first had their games. TBS used to have Dominique Wilkins. That was my favorite player growing up. Mm-hmm. I love Jordan, but Dominique was my guy because Friday nights, TBS, when it was the Superstation, when they were showing nothing but Atlanta stuff on a national level.
Days, yeah.
Dominique with the double pump, and then it turned into TNT. I remember my brother. That's why I said, it hits my brother. My brother we used to go on Friday nights to go to Sonic and go sit in the drive-thru, you know, and get our food so that when we come home to watch the doubleheader on Friday night. Jordan was my guy on Saturday, so my dad would literally watch the game, but he'd break down the game to me as Jordan was playing because he was a coach. So that all wrapped into me. And then as I got older, you know, being around people that were sports, and for me, I always read. I always studied almanacs. I always read. I used to go to the library and check out everything sports related, and that's where it all came from. And so it manifested over the years. I always loved to debate sports. I always loved to talk sports. I used to love stats. You know, I'm the one kid in school when everybody's reading about caterpillars. I got the big almanac, and you remember the yearly almanacs.
The
world almanacs. I used to get the world almanacs not to read about statistics about you know what city was largest or this and this. No, I used to read the 300 pages that was about sports, learning about soccer, football, and then like I said, it just turned into something. And that's young Danny at 7, 8 years old.
Forgot about the almanacs. I do remember them though. Them suckers were like this big, man. In the when they had the book fair, they always had them in the book fair, and I'm like, bro, they had so much. Oh, I forgot about that. While I was
that's where Darrell, you know, when we're learning about years and statistics, I've been reading that stuff since I was 6, 7, 8 years old, you know, and that stuff hasn't stopped. So Man, you asked the question about little Danny and where it came from. That's where it came from. Of course, playing with friends, but at some point, I stopped growing in the 7th, 8th grade. So my dream of being 6'6" from North Carolina, that stopped. That stopped in 8th grade. Okay. So no, it turned into love, and I was always a good writer. My teachers as a kid always told me I was a good writer. So when I got to high school, I was in the journalism program. I was in the newspaper staff. I wrote little things on football, soccer. Our soccer team was pretty good in middle school and also into high school. I was in yearbook in high school, and then I went to college. I went to Winston State. I was only there for a year and a half, 3 semesters. But being engulfed in that culture, I used to write my English papers in college all about sports. I would take every prompt that he had, that my professor had my freshman and sophomore year, my three classes, and took every prompt and turned into write something about sports, whether about athlete, whether about something. I think I remember one year I wrote a paper about predicting the future. I wrote an ACC basketball preview, so I turned it into something like that.
That's slick. Hey, you said predict the future. I got you. This is gonna be too easy. I got you.
Exactly. I was like, okay, I don't want to write about Shakespeare. I refuse. So let me write about the Shakespearean version of Michael Jordan. Let me see how this works.
Hilarious. Hey, that's too funny. But that's what I'm talking about, man. And I think, a lot of us have that. Some, have that story, have that passion in there for sports, but it's always something that kind of triggers you. I think, like, for me, it was always, I watched SportsCenter religiously. It was bad. Went to bed with it.
Favorite SportsCenter anchor growing up. Here we go.
Ooh.
Now I'm going to throw something back at you.
Oh, all right. So, Stuart Scott's a give me.
Stuart Scott is like Jordan.
I'm not going to say Stu.
Okay.
But so this is where it gets tough.
How about in the 80s? You watch sports at ESPN, who was your guy in the
80s? See, that's the thing, man. I would say, because I'm more of an early 90s. Well, okay. I would say, this is tough. All right, I'm gonna give you Charlie Steiner. I used to love Charlie Steiner and Bob Lee. Chris Brumbill, but as the anchors, Bob Lee. I thought Bob Lee's voice was kind of common. It's a little bit high pitched to an extent, but I love Bob Lee. Charlie Steiner was my guy. I don't know what Charlie just had this ruggedness about him. So the Linda Cones, but yeah, Charlie Steiner was probably the early guy. And then obviously when the dynamic duo with Rich and Stewart, they were just dynamite. And then. I got to give him love too. Dan Patrick and Fuego. He was amazing.
Patrick,
it's so many. It's crazy because like those early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, sports broadcasters that were on ESPN, there were so many good ones, man. Like so many that, even Craig Kilborn, he was on there for a while doing his thing. Keith Olbermann was on that bad boy. They had
the Olbermann Patrick 11 o'clock show was amazing.
Yeah, they had so much greatness going on, and sometimes it was like, man, this is crazy how good, and I'm not gonna watching them every night made me like I would, everybody had their own style, and I just used to sit back and just like, man, I love this. And initially, I think that's what I wanted. I wanted to be an anchor initially.
I think every person, every kid that watched ESPN wanted to be on ESPN for the simple fact of, number one, you never knew the combination was coming. You always knew who was coming on Sunday. Now, Sunday Night Sports Center was always your top 2 team because it always NFL and everything else. But throughout the week, the combination they put together was like watching hockey. You didn't know what magic was going to come with a typical Wednesday night. So I used to stay up. I used to act like I was going to sleep and then wake up at 11, set my alarm at 11, make sure nobody in the house heard it, to turn my TV on, to figure out who was anchoring SportsCenter that night, and just try to watch as much as I can to fall asleep until I had to go to school next morning.
It used to be people take melatonin or whatever. Now that was it for me. I sat there and watched it religiously. Between that and then eventually the draft was the other thing that got me. I was like 9 years old when I remember watching my first draft, and I've been something like 9 to 8, like the 93, 92 draft, and I watched the draft ever since then. And then it's like it just grew. And then I went one day and I was like, I just I just want to be an announcer. Then the announcer started kicking in. I this is my guy right here. Now on NHL hockey, Gary Thorne and Bill Clement. I met
People don't understand when you heard the ESPN theme song for NHL Hockey Night, because I even had the Hockey Night video game on the Genesis. But you heard the you knew it was like the same way as NBA.
Yo, when they brought it back this year.
Yeah, and you talk about what turned you on ESPN. For me, besides all the early memories of hockey, I remember when ESPN used to have shows on during the day. And I don't mean 30,000 news shows, which is no offense though to many of anchors that do that. It was before First Take. I remember in the summers, right around this time of year, Darrell, like July, NFL Films used to have NFL Yearbook on from like
and they would just show it. They would just show it. Look,
the whole season from 12:30 to like 4 p.m. It was nothing but NFL Yearbook, and I would literally wait to find when the Falcons were coming on.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I'm waiting for that day. But yeah, that used to be ESPN in the glory days. Now it just changed.
They used to do that in the old school, like they would do the Super Bowls, and then they would every year they would do the Super Bowls in order. So it's like, all right, I know I got Green Bay at the beginning. Now I gotta wait 31. I gotta wait for 30 more before we get back in there. But it was always that's
next week.
They always had those. They had great shows to me, like Sports Reporters was great. Outside the Lines when Bob Lee was
the original Outside the Lines. Yeah.
I mean it was just great. Guys like John Saunders. Oh, there's a guy. That John Saunders
had
amazing.
The most soothing voice. He had the most soothing voice when it came to it's like almost listening to Dennis Hayward. He's talking about what is it? Insurance.
Yeah. That's all Allstate stand. Yeah.
Yeah. John Saunders was the Dennis Hayward. It's just soothing, calming. But no, I mean, even I remember I miss Mark Jones being on ESPN more.
It's so many. Like I said, I can go on and on.
Yeah.
But I know for me, that's how I kicked. And with that being said, your journalism side, you take us kind of on a journey to where obviously you knew when you were a kid that you loved sports, but when did you say, all right, that's it, the journey in the journalism world, I'm going to be a sports journalist, this is what I got going on. When did that happen for you?
So one thing will always be about me has always been the word unconventional. So we always have this idea of how we're going to get to a location, how we get to a spot. But sometimes, I've learned as I've gotten older, especially, is that if you set a goal and set a target to do something, how you get there isn't really how you get there. It's just the end goal. So I've always wanted to be a journalist. It was in my passion. So when I went to college, I went to West Sun State. I was a journalism major. Like Kanye said, after a couple semesters, I was finished. Came home, worked in retail. I worked at a grocery store. I was a manager with Winn-Dixie. And, that's how long ago Winn-Dixie was.
Winn-Dixie.
Yes. Wearing the yellow dress shirts with the black pants. Okay.
Oh, Winn-Dixie. That's
looking like a bumblebee. Okay. So I was there, and at that time, I want to say it was 2005. Real GM had just first started. The Charlotte Bobcats had just gotten to town. Real GM was like, this is the infant stage of Real GM. This is like, when they had message boards and AOL chats and those things. So I decided to write a few pieces for Real GM, and then NFL Draft Blitz came along. And I started writing. That's where I got my first interview. The very first person I ever interviewed was Dwayne Brown from Virginia Tech. I interviewed him in his dorm room. I was in my mom's house, literally with AOL Messenger, messaging him back and forth. We only had one phone line in the house, so I'm trying to do this interview, asking questions, nervous over a phone. He's in his dorm room with no reception at Virginia Tech to get this article done. But your mom picked up the phone. Like, Mom, I'm on a call. One of those types of things. So
hey, Mom, can't do this right now. Not right now.
Like, yeah, you got chill. But that was my first interview. It was Dwayne Brown. I want to say it was 2006, 2007. He was at Von Tech. He was a really, really nice guy. He was nervous. I was nervous. We didn't know what the hell we were doing at the time. So I went to journalism for a while, and then my brother had passed in 2008, and I took a step back. I tried to reevaluate my life, and I ended up moving to Florida. So what happened was, remember, we played video games as a child. I always wanted to be a journalist, but designing video games has always been my second passion. It's like my journalism Pippin. And so I went to Orlando. I worked a year in a worked a year doing retail, actually selling education items to school districts. So I was a sales manager selling. Like I said, weird history getting here. Before I got here, I managed a GameStop. I ran a Winn-Dixie. I ran a Harris Teeter as a deli bakery manager. So I'm actually certified to decorate cakes. I worked in a call center selling OnStar minutes to people in vehicles. So they sold direct
OnStar minutes. Oh shit!
OnStar minutes and giving people directions. So that OnStar button you heard back in the early part of the late 2000s, that was my voice telling you where to go. You hit that button. Hey, can I get to Caesar's Palace? And I'm giving you directions.
That's hilarious. That's too funny to me.
So I sold direct TV. So I mean, I worked for different companies. And so I was in Orlando working for a company called Quill, which is also Staples, as an education manager. And right across the street from the office was EA Sports. Was literally right across the street. I could look out my window and see Electronic Arts sitting right there. And like every kid who played video games, we always wanted to design video games. So I would literally go on my lunch break. And I would go on my lunch break every single day for almost 7 months, literally every day. Leave my lunch area to go across the street, park my car, and hand out my resume to literally anybody that walked in the Electronic Arts office. Just anybody that was walking in and out, going to lunch, doing whatever. It's hot. It's Florida. I'm literally in a polo shirt and khaki pants and dress shoes in 95-degree weather, burning up, handing out my resume, or just trying to get somebody's attention. And so I worked out there for a year and got a phone call about a job fair. And mind you, like I said, I have literally 4 semesters of college under my belt. So I have no degree. I don't have an associate's degree. So I walk into Electronic Arts. They had a big job fair. And that's when NBA Live had moved down from Vancouver down to Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a position. They said, what position are you looking at? And they had what they call a ratings designer for basketball. And so, like I said, I've been covering basketball. I know basketball statistics.
Right.
So I walked in with a 200-page notebook of statistics and how I would do ratings. I broke down everything from Live 10, going back to 2K, going back to literally Allen Iverson 2K, and look at NBA Live, and then compared ratings. I had spreadsheets. I had everything possible. So I walked in and met my creative director, Jason Barnes, and he was like, "Where the hell did you come from?" So
I've been here. What took me so long?
So, after some time, it took like 2 months. I got another phone call. I had 2 interviews. I got a phone call 2 months later. They named me the roster designer for NBA Live series. So I did all the player rosters. And then over the time, as I was doing player ratings, I did playbooks. I did shoes. So, I designed the shoes to make sure everything for player authenticity was completely correct. So during that time working at EA, I could not write. I couldn't be a sports writer. Couldn't do anything.
Right.
EA had your NDAs. They had your NDAs. So you could not do much of anything without their approval. I spent 2 great years at EA. I mean, I can go back and look at Madden 25, and I can always know that the black guy closest to the end on your skin tone you create your player is this right here.
Hilarious. That's me. That's me.
I was on the project for NBA Live that was canceled, but the first one and the only one I got game credit for was on Live 13, the one that had Kyrie Irving in the cover of it. That's how I met Kyrie and so on and so forth. Also, if you ever play NBA Jam on Fire Edition and you get the roster update, my ratings were in that roster update. So if you ever play the game, Darrell, if you get the roster update, always play with New Orleans Hornets because Hugo the Hornet and Ryan Anderson will never lose in that game. Never. I have it set that way. Hugo and Ryan are both 10s. Also, from the corners, I was able to put in the game where that their 10-point 3-point rating turned into 15. So they almost never missed. They literally never missed from the corner. So if you ever get the roster update, get Ryan Anderson, get Hugo the Hornet for the New Orleans Hornets at the time, New Orleans Hornets, and you won't lose.
And that's crazy because I remember when the live had got canceled, I think I ordered it because I ain't gonna lie, at the time, I just wanted to play the new NBA Jam. I was so excited about it. And I don't think it's funny because I think after they canceled, I never got a chance to get it. And I'm gonna have to find a way to go get it now.
13 is still in stores. I know what you call stores at GameStop. I know he's got 13.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Russ. I know Russ got like the inside track. I'm gonna have to talk to Russ about that.
So if you go on the credits, my name is in the credits, and those 2 years were an amazing 2 years. Actually, on my 2-year anniversary, I walked into work and I was laid off on the 2-year anniversary. Actually, I walked in, got my bowl of cereal because EA had cereal, and I was about to go to work. We had a roster update coming, so I had to get that prepared. I got called into the office, and that day, that's when EA settled with Ed O'Bannon over player likeness.
Oh no, it's Ed's fault. What?
The player likeness thing cost me my job at EA. But when one door closed, another door opened. So, living in Orlando, knowing people I knew, I ran into a guy named Hezi McCaleb. He's from New Orleans. He had a podcast in a group and a website called Barbershop Sports. And so, after going through, we lose your job is difficult when it's something that you've always imagined and dreamed of, and you lose it.
Right.
It sucks. It hits you. So Hezi got me involved with, just coming on his podcast, talking NBA with him and him and the guys that he had, the barbershop crew, and, started writing for him just to, I guess, transition. It was hard, and after that, met a guy named Randy Zelia from Backpage Sports, and he got me my first credential with the Boston Celtics and the Orlando Magic. I want to say it was December of 2015. I covered my first game in 2015. And then, working with the barbershop guys, it inspired me to start my own podcast. That was days of Blog Talk Radio. That's the days of Blog Talk Radio. Before you had intro, you heard Blog Talk Radio. That's what you heard in the very beginning. So it's like I started my first podcast, Full Court Press Radio, and I ended up coming across a journalist named Jackie Taylor who was working as an NBA journalist on the West Coast. And we decided to start this podcast together, and she rocked me for a while. She was the first person to show me how to get guests and how to, learn the ins and outs of journalism. Because like I said, when your podcast is one thing, it is something else. And so I'm covering games for Backpage Sports. I have the podcast. And so I looked, and it's funny when you go in these rooms, Darrell, and you've been in these rooms many times, you go into a journalist room, there's one thing missing a lot of times. It's people who like us.
Yep.
And there wasn't very many people who look like us in the room unless they were hired. And the other part is when you sit down and get to know people in the room, you realize a second thing. 90% of people that are in media rooms, they have full-time jobs. And there's not what and covering games is not what they get paid for. Okay.
This is also true.
I worked, I learned my chops covering games. I sat with two guys who were amazing in the Orlando sphere, Philip Rockman Rice, who's still at Orlando Magic Daily, and Zach Oliver, who was running Pinstripe Post, and I think he's not at Daily as well too. Those guys taught me the ropes about being in the room. Like I knew that if you go into Orlando Magic media room, John didn't sit on one side and and my guy Josh Robbins sat on the other side. Like you don't sit in those two spots. Like those spots are like legitimately saved for them. Like, they taught me the ins and outs.
Don't touch them.
Don't touch those seats because you don't want to get that look. So, and then I was like, okay, at some point in time I needed to find my own credentials. I needed to I was starting to grow myself. I was okay. I need to build my own brand. So what do I do? So I reached out to people, in the industry, and then I realized you get told a lot of no's. You get a lot of people who don't answer emails. You get a lot of people who don't.
A lot
of people won't even try to help you even crack the door open. So I told myself, if I ever made it, if I ever got somewhere, I'm going to help somebody.
Right.
I'm going to go help the next person, especially someone who, ironically, who looked like me, because there wasn't very much representation. But I told myself, if I was able to help one person, then I did exactly what I was supposed to do. So through the things that never went right, went wrong, I went to sports radio in Orlando, and I learned about what they call broker shows. And so what that does was, at this point, I was laid off my job. I was selling timeshares at this point. Ooh. And yeah, like I said, I've done almost everything. I lived a crazy life at this point. So I'm selling timeshares, and I was doing Uber. I was doing Uber when it first came out, not the food, the actual Uber. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? And so they told me they're going to charge me this amount for a 2-hour show. Like I said, the podcast going, I was getting guests. I was reaching out to people on social media. I was getting people to respond back. So I was starting to get a laundry list of guests. The radio station came to me and said, okay, this is what we need you to do. You need to pay this much money each month. But here's how you make your money back. You sell advertisements. So at this point, okay, I've been in sales for so long. I've been making money for people my entire life.
Right.
Why the hell not do it for myself? So I went into business for myself at this point. So I went out literally going through the phone book and just and using my Google and going to different businesses, the local, the small ones, just to see about radio time. And so during that time, I'm doing full court press radio. I'm nationally, I know it's nationally syndicated in the Orlando area, iHeartRadio. So I started thinking to myself, so time out. It's on Orlando radio, and you can listen to it nationally on iHeart.
Right.
Let me go back to the Magic and see what happens. The Magic were like, oh. So one day, listen to my show. At that point, they started handing me credentials. Because I just figured out the matrix at this point. If you have callers beside your name and they can look at you, and you're on the air, you're not lying. Yeah, I have a podcast, but I'm on radio. At this point, there's nothing you can say to me at this point. So I took that, and I had the 2-night-a-week show. I was doing the show Tuesdays and Thursdays nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So literally, in the worst hours of radio possible, when you get preempted for, I've had my show preempted for minor league hockey, UCF baseball. I'll never forget, I had a show with Kenny Anderson on. We're doing something major. Kenny Anderson, crying out loud. So his people are calling me from Jersey. They turned to the radio station. It's like, why the hell is a hockey game on? The station didn't tell me that it was being preempted for hockey.
What?
I've been preempted for softball. I've been preempted for a lot of things. So I figured my way into the building was using the radio. And so I did radio. I was on 3 different stations during my time in Orlando. And then, life happens. You go through a divorce. You go through a lot of things. Your life changes in different ways. And so when that change happened, I ended up meeting up with a black media company, Florida National News. They needed a sports reporter, somebody who was going to go cover the Magic every night. I needed something to put my badge over. So you got, it was a working relationship. I wrote articles for them. They got me credentials. On top of that, working with Florida National News took me places I've never been before. So on top of covering the Magic, they sent me I covered UCF's bowl runs with Mackenzie Milton and all those different things. I covered the Jacksonville Jaguars through them. So I was going to Jacksonville, literally driving 2 hours, 5 hours every Sunday to go watch the terrible Jaguars play. I mean, I was subjecting myself to this. I was covering, UCF basketball. I was able to get into Conference USA's tournament, the NCAA tournament. I even covered concerts. Ironically, I took my current wife on our first major date to a concert that was given credentials for at the last minute.
My man, brilliant, baby. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you do it.
So
that's how you do it.
And so that path allowed me to, when you cover games, and Darrell, and the people who've been there before cover games, you meet so many people. Right. You go into an interview, you go into a media room. If it's the NBA, I go into rooms and pregame. I used to get there literally. If the game's 7:00, I would get there at 4:30, be one of the first people there, because you never know who's there. So one night, Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier, were in the building. They're eating before the MSG. They're doing their little pre-show dinner.
Right.
And I'm sitting there. Like I said, I'm sitting at the next table over. The Magic's media food is the most hit and miss food you ever can eat. It's like really hit and miss. Like it's really either good or it's really bad. This night was actually pretty solid. So I'm over here eating my dinner, just getting ready for the game. And they're talking about the Magic, and nobody knows like what's going on with the Magic. And so Walt turns over to me and says, hey, and he looked at me and said, so Florida National News. So you cover the Magic? I'm like, yeah. A couple quick questions for you. So Walt, Mike Breen, and the MSG people are asking me questions about the Magic. That way they're just taking notes. I'm like, this is Walt Clyde Frazier. We're talking like dressed like Stan from Martin dressing Walt Clyde Frazier. We're literally sitting there looking at them, and they're just taking notes. And I'm just like, it's Mike Breen. It's Walt Frazier. And then, they get up, they go finish having dinner. They go up to go get ready for the broadcast. And Mike says, thank you so much. And I was like, Mike, I do a radio show. Can I have you on? He not only gives me his business card, he was like, here, take my cell phone number down and text me, and I'm going to lock it in. That's the least I can do. And I started thinking to myself, I said, well, damn, I can start getting guests this way? So,
Dang.
I'll be like, well, man. So I literally would go to games and go to early. I would meet different people. You meet different scouts. You would meet different. You just never know who you run into
Right.
at a sporting event. And so at that point, I started building a Rolodex. I started knowing people from all over, creating friendships, just creating laughter. People I still talk with today. You know, Darrell, you've been to plenty of games. You know, the dumbest stuff happens in media rooms. Like you find crazy things, and then you go into locker rooms and you see players and you get a hold of agents, and it's just like, this is my realm, and that's where the guests come from. That's where, you know, I've known. It's because I never was afraid to talk to people. I mean, in this industry, you know, if you walk up to a person making $100 million and ask them a question of what the hell happened in the fourth quarter, and you have the balls to ask them that, you can sit here and ask a journalist, hey, you know, what can I do to be better? Or ask them something, you know, strike up a conversation about the game going on. It's like, I promise you, you'll get those conversations that you never had.
It's happened. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's been quite a few times I've had a chance to do that, and there was the times I was like super nervous. I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna go to, do I got the guts to go out here and say what I got to say? But I mean, I've run into a lot of people that you surprisingly were really humble. You know, like they didn't come at you, you know, nasty. But you never really know what you're gonna get because it can be up and down. But I've you know, but I will say most of the people I've ran into have been pretty good. And they've been really you know, they've been really, you know, helpful in the time frame. You know, and I've spoken to Andy Katz and some other people in that range, and every time I've ever asked them, they was like, yeah, man, you work on this, you work on that, you work on this. And you know, I think Andy Katz gave me my first real advice when we first started. And I asked him, I was like, man, you know, we started this network and we're trying to do this and trying to do that. He said, what would you do, man? Like, what would you do? And he told me, he said, attack the local. That's what he told me. He said, learn the local, grow. And he said, learn everything and grow locally. And then you go from there. You'll see what you need to do from there. And he's right. He was right. I took that advice from this day. I've taken that advice and I've always like used that. Like it's always been like a backbone to me when whenever I think about certain things or how I'm going to start something or whatever. So you're right. Like going in those rooms, not knowing what they're going to say to you, if they're going to be nice to you. But I will say my experiences have been pretty solid. You know, one or two that I was like, but most of them were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, but you run into those people. But I think one, like you mentioned how Andy Katz said too. I think one of the ones that said to is Sekou Smith. Sekou was, you know, rest in peace for Sekou. But Sekou was at a game in Orlando,
right?
Covered for NBA at the time. I think it was .com at the time. And you know, like you mentioned before, you're like, yo, this is Sekou Smith. This is a guy I read every day,
right?
And you know, one of the I say one of the pillars at the time of the NBA journalism community. And I asked him, and he was like, I asked him a question. He's like, here's what I want you to do: be yourself. If you're always yourself, you have nobody ever tell you you're not genuine. So just be yourself. And he said, and it kind of stuck with me because just be yourself. Doesn't matter who it is. And Sekou, he did my podcast a couple of times. And so the be yourself moment came that night. So it was, I think it was one of the Magic's very rare, and when I say very rare games, we were on television at the time. Because like I said, I covered the Magic during the Jock Vaughn Scott Skiles years.
Ooh,
okay.
Ooh.
Okay, that
Sometimes.
was the bad years. So it was one of the rare games. NBA TV was in town, so of course they had the extra cameras in the building. And the be yourself moment happened. So Sekou's telling me this like a game or two before. A couple days later, NBA TV's in town, and Kristen Ledlow, who's from I think Central Florida, she was at the game, and I went up to her. I was like, Kristen, hey, big fan of your work. Is there a way to get you on the show, you know, to talk basketball? And I was being myself. We laughed and joked about something in session, and that's why I asked her. And she goes, I liked your question. Sure, I got a chance to do your show. Here who you need to contact at Turner. Let's do it. And within 3 weeks, Kristen's on my radio show, and it's like, okay, this is my moment. But outside of that, you know, in everything in my life, I've always done, I guess, unconventionally. I'm one of the few people in the world that can say I don't have a college degree, and I've worked in IT. I've managed a GameStop. I have ran a $5 million grocery store. I've got my game credits on a video game. I've designed video games. I've covered over 300 sporting events. I have a shoebox. You know, for upcoming journalists, one of the things I always have that keeps me hungry is I have a shoebox, and that shoebox is filled with every credential I've ever worked.
Yes.
So I go in and I look.
It's back there. I got it right back there.
I have a shoebox of every credential I've ever had, and one day I'm gonna put it on a plaque and just the different things. I go back in, see all the baggage games I covered. I go back and I remember I pulled out this one of an international soccer game involving, I think it was Tottenham, because Harry Kane was in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Harry Kane a question because he came out and nobody was out there, so I asked the question and it went viral because no one asked him about his contract situation. It went viral. I have Pro Bowl credentials. I have all these different events I've covered over the years, and that motivated. It kept me driving was because, Darrell, you know this, and a lot of people know this, but people see the finished product
exactly
of what we do. Oh man, you at this game, you're at that game, but no one knows that we stay up to damn 2 a.m. the day before. Not to mention going to work. We have deadlines. We have things we have to do. We have time away from our families. There is the 40 hours a week at work in most cases, and some people 50, 60 hours. But then we have the 30 hours a week that we do everything else.
Exactly.
But people can see the finished product. But what it took for us to get to this moment, you have no idea what it took.
Man,
you have no idea how many times I didn't sleep. You have no many nights I stayed up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning watching League Pass to get right back up at 6:30. People don't know the actual sacrifice. They just see, oh, you're on the field doing this. Oh, you at this sporting event, you're doing this. I did not see $1 from any of this. Okay,
no money. Look, no money whatsoever.
All those parking receipts up until my last year of Florida National News, all those parking receipts, I paid for. That gas back and forth to Jacksonville and a Pacifica, in a Chrysler Pacifica. You know how much of things ride on gas and SUVs? That's on me. The gas, the tires, the oil, all those trips, that's on me.
Right.
Like paying to get in places I had to pay a park to those things, that came on me. So that's the part people don't really know. And that's where that part of the journalist takes, because, it looks good, it sounds good, but trust me, y'all, it's not for the weak at heart. To get to where Darrell is right now, the things I've seen, or the people that you see, oh, they're doing this, this, and this. You got to realize, to get to this point, it took years of hard work to get to this point.
Years, man. Years. it's years, man. It's and that's the thing. Like I that's what, for any young person in this game that's listening to this or whatnot. That's what we're talking about. You got to have a passion for it when there's all the reason in the world to give up on it. All the reason in the world.
Yes.
You need money for your family. You need this. You take a sacrifice because like this is a big opportunity. It's those are the things you just got to keep pushing, because then eventually, something is going to go your way, and when it goes your way, you're going to go back and look and say, "Yep, that's exactly what I was looking for."
People don't know how many no emails I've received. People have know how many times.
Tons. I'm telling you, there's a lot of them. I'm telling you, can't get discouraged by them.
No, you get no's all the time. You get people, doubting your work. You get people, that don't believe in what you're talking about, or don't believe in your platform, or don't look at your platform as nothing more than just, some internet filler.
Right.
And you have 10,000 people wanting to be a journalist, but really only 500 really know what they're talking about, because everybody writes a sports column nowadays. Everybody has a website nowadays. Everybody has a podcast nowadays.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, so how do you differentiate what they call from real from what it is? It's consistency. It's literally consistency. It's literally knowing your craft. If I can listen to your podcast and I can literally dissect within 5 minutes of your show and you start talking sports, I'm not talking about the beginning, I'm not talking about the intro, I'm not talking about the beginning hot topics. If I can listen to your show for 5 minutes and I can realize that I can literally pick apart what you're talking about,
right,
it's really not what it is. Like if it's something that doesn't make sense within 5 minutes, I can pick it apart. I cut it off.
That makes no sense to me. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Like, I got 5,000 people's podcasts I listen to, and I promise you, there's about maybe 20 to 30 I listen to regularly. Some people know a podcast I listen to regularly, others don't.
Right.
Because the thing is, it's all about support too, because I support people whether they know it or not, whether they pay attention or not. That's just
exactly
the mentality of everything.
And I think that's a huge part of it, y'all. I mean, so for all the journalist people out there, just remember, don't give up, keep pushing, because you never know when your time is going to come, and that perseverance will come through. All right. So look, we got 2 segments left in this bad boy, but my favorite segment is about to come up now. It is time for quick ones. All right, Danny, are you ready for the Danny Thompson edition of Quick Ones here on One-on-One here on the Legacy Makers Sports Network?
Let's do it.
All right. So for those who are, maybe listening for the first time, the way Quick Ones work is this. I'm going to give a phrase here, or I wouldn't say a phrase, but maybe a question. I could be like, who's your, favorite basketball player of all time? Something like that. So I'm going to give Danny a couple of those, see what he's got to say on there. And we're going to make this bad boy a fun one. So let's go ahead and get started with my favorite one. That is the introductory one, everybody. Favorite sports moment, Danny?
Man, favorite sports moment? Man, in person or just in general?
Just in general. It can be anyone. In general, I'm cool with it.
In general, just my favorite sports moment in general is literally, man, you asked me a spot. I would have to say 1993 North Carolina NCAA championship against Michigan. The timeout. Being the underdogs in that game, Donald Williams, staying up and watching that game, and just thinking the Fab Five was going to crush us because of that team they had. The grit and determination of my Tar Heels. It was Dean's last one. That will be my favorite sports moment on the visual side. In person, man, there was nothing like. To be honest with you, UCF, South Florida, Black Friday football game. One of the wildest games there, Mackenzie Milton, and it was like almost 100 points scored. Quentin, quarterback for USF, literally broke the school record for passing yards in the second quarter. Like, it was literally basically mad.
Wait a minute. In the second quarter, he broke the passing record.
That's crazy. I think he was like close to 400 in the second quarter. But it was literally me and Kyle Nash were sitting in that booth, just looking at each other in the press box, like, what the hell are we watching? It was literally arena football with 100 yards, no ceiling, and literally no nets. It was literally two teams.
No defense, ladies and gentlemen. Like, why are y'all on the field?
Until the final series of the game, I think UCF got an interception. It was a crazy game. So
poetic justice in that way.
Yeah, just the atmosphere alone.
All right, next one. Worst sports moment.
Are we really doing this?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, bro. Look.
All right, 28-3.
All right, you ain't got to say no more. We all know. I'm not going to put you through that. I'm not going to put you through that. Next one. Favorite athlete growing up.
I said earlier in the podcast, my favorite athlete in the NBA was Dominique Wilkins as a kid. I was always a Deion Sanders fan because, like I said, growing up as a Falcons fan, Deion was my guy, along with Andre Rison and Chris Miller. The defense. So I would say Deion. I would say Dominique, and I'm gonna have to go hockey. I was a big fan of Pavel Bure as a kid. Pavel Bure.
Pavel was with Vancouver, correct? With the Canucks.
It's funny. So it's a funny story. As a child, 94 Cup Finals. The Rangers won the Cup.
That's the OJ Finals.
Yeah,
that's the OJ Finals. Yeah.
So for Christmas that year, now Darrell, this is telling my age. You remember the Spiegel catalog?
Yeah.
So my mom for Christmas, I asked for a Rangers jersey, right? For the because the Rangers jersey, the blue one with the Rangers across was so cold. And I asked for a Rangers watch. So that year, I got a Maple Leafs watch. They sent me the wrong watch, and they sent me a Canucks jersey.
Really?
So, but it was a Canucks jersey, and then at that point, that's when NHL '94 came out. One of the greatest hockey.
Hey, that's my game right there.
And so, at that point, Pavel Bure, I knew who Bure was, the Russian Rocket, scoring goals at a crazy number. And at that point, I started paying attention more to the Canucks because I had the jersey, more Rocket. So, right. I became a Pavel Bure fan. Like the fact of his speed, his skill set. He scored goals. In NHL hockey, all I did was score goals. I could play. Okay, that's my defense as long as I scored goals. So he was my very first guy I love when it comes to scoring goals. Now, mind you, I said I'm a huge hockey fan, so Theo Fleury, going back to Gretzky, I remember Gretzky in Edmonton, so I do remember those things. But Pavel was my guy, so those are my 3 favorites of all time.
That's also NHL 94 is a godsend for me. I got to throw it out because you mentioned it, I couldn't help myself, but I was a huge Quebec Nordiques guy.
Oh, okay.
It's the only team I ever played with the game. I remember buying I got the game. He's going down to my cousin's house, and the first time I played the game, they were the first team I picked. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it was the color. I couldn't. That
logo was just weird. That logo was weird.
I think it was probably because Quebec was just a weird name, and I'm like, what is that? I had no clue what it was. I was 10, so I went in there. I picked Quebec. And it's the only team, and I think on that team they had, I want to say Ron Hextall was the goalie.
Yeah. Ron Hextall, we had young Joe Sakic, they had Mike Lucci,
I think
Steve Duchesne
on there. Oh my God, it's somebody else, but I'm having them. Oh, Matt Sundin.
Sundin, yes, that was young. Oh, it's young Sundin too.
Yeah, man, yeah. So and so they were on there, and so for me, I'm like, oh man, shoot, this is great. I love him. So when the new one came out. And they wasn't on there. I'm like, whoa, where is Quebec? And then Avalanche. So that's how I became an Avalanche fan. I've been an Avalanche fan since they were Quebec in '94.
Congratulations on the cup, by the way. Okay, you see your teams win championships in your lifetime. Don't rub it in. Okay, don't rub it in.
I'm sorry, man. I will say though, '94, very influential year. I think that's the year that I remember picking all my teams. Now that I go back and look at it, except for Green Bay, I became a Packers fan in like 91, 92. I think it was like 92 because Sterling Sharp was my guy. But it was all 94. Mariners fan because of Ken Griffey.
Yep.
He was having a great year. Then the strike, that all happened. And then I was a Heat fan. And then Zoe went to the Heat, and I was always a huge Alonzo Mourning guy. Oh, I love Lonzo, one of my favorite NBA players. I know there's the Jordans. He's always been my favorite NBA player. The guts, he's just as tough as they come. Love Zoe. My dream is to meet Zoe. Okay, so one day it's gonna happen. But anyway, that year, 3 of my teams, minus the Packers, I became fans of those teams in '94. Video games had the part to do it, so that goes back to what we talked about earlier. But yeah, man, Pavel, man, that's toss back. That '94 game, right over there. I got
the Raycon in the little one's bedroom. For those who know what Raycon is, because sometimes the older consoles are hard to find. If you get a Raycon, you could actually play Genesis, Nintendo, and Super Nintendo games.
That's I brought it online. I got the same thing. I got so much stuff back there in this little cup, in the brown cubby over here. Yeah, but NHL 94 was a must. I'm like, no, I got to get that. That's my game.
I got Tecmo Super NBA Basketball in the other room. I'm in the midst of finding Tecmo Bowl. Both of them, Tecmo and Super Bowl.
I got both of those.
I do have Coach K basketball.
Don't got Coach K though.
You gotta get Coach K. That's a must have. If you don't remember Coach K, Coach K was like, I think that was NBA Live with a college skin on it. Live 95.
I think I got Bulls versus Blazer in there. I got NFL football 94. That was the best part of the game. NFL football 94. I got all that in there.
They used to kill me, catch those passes. Used to annoy me so bad.
Never can catch the pass. It's the worst passing game I've ever seen. I got the game in there, and every time I play it, I get mad. I turn it off. I've never played a full game.
Have you played College Football National Championship?
I have that. I think I had that as well back there.
But you can actually catch on that one.
Yeah, that's the thing though. You can catch on, but the other one is trash. I mean, the game itself is like, oh, I thought the helmets were cool when I was a kid. My brother used to play it all the time. I was so jealous because they wouldn't let me play. I was so much younger, but I have it now. And they don't want to even play it because I can't catch the football. I'm like, whatever. Exactly. I was like, whatever. I ain't got time for this. You're gonna have me go back and play NHL before this is over with. We got 2 more left here on quick ones. This one right here, I think is gonna be a good one for you. You are coaching a 3-on-3 basketball team, and there's anybody, your choice. Who is on this team? Who are you coaching on this 3-on-3 basketball team?
All time?
Whoever you want. It could be my man, like Mike. I mean, you give me, it could be fantasy, whatever. You give me
so
3 basketball players.
If you're
that you
giving me
want
a
on your
game
team.
of 3-on-3, I put my life on the line. Give me Jordan. Give me, man, because I'm playing for my life here. Give me Jordan. Give me Wilt.
Oh, it's over already.
Wilt over Chandler only because Wilt he's like a 7-foot high jumper. And then give me, I'll be honest with you, give me Kevin Durant.
I'm not
a 7-footer with a ratchet. It's just that simple. I wanted Dirk, but the fact that I wanted to use Dirk so bad in the 3-on-3, like this is like literally 3-on-3, but I gotta go KD because the bag he has at 7 foot tall is really insane.
Right.
I mean, if I got Jordan, I don't need LeBron. That makes sense to me.
That's true too. You really wouldn't. Jordan can handle everything else. Wilt's gonna grab everything, and then if Jordan is in a little trouble, you're gonna kick it out to Durant. You're gonna knock it down. I mean, you in good shape. You got everything you need there. Okay, last one. What's the worst movie you ever seen?
Oh, Glitter.
You said Glitter?
Glitter and Geely. The first bit. Yeah, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, the Benifer, the first movie they did together was trash. And watching Mariah Carey try to act, I'll never forget watching it in college. I was forced to watch it in college. I'm just going to say that I didn't choose to watch. I was forced to watch it.
I think the way you feel about Mariah Carey is how I feel about Beyonce, minus probably Dreamgirls, because Dreamgirls and maybe Cadillac Records. I
like her Fight Temptations though.
Okay, Fighting Temptation, but everything else, a little tough.
No, Mariah Carey and Julie. No, Mariah Carey and Glitter is
Mariah
not
Carey and
Beyonce. No, we're not doing this. Nope,
we're not gonna put them in this position. Oh, that's great.
The Beehive is not covering for me. My wife made.
I don't have time for that. I'm not trying to get beat up.
My wife made a post about Beyonce's new album, and I was just worried that I'm glad that I don't think it was public because otherwise, I don't need the Beehive coming after me. I don't need it.
Yeah, look, all I know is that I heard. Me and my daughter were out today, and I heard her new song literally 6 times by the time we were kind of hanging out. 6 times on the radio.
Which one? Break My Soul?
Yeah.
Well, see, I listened to the album because I listened to the album completely. Not going to say when I listened to it, but I listened to it sometime this week. Okay. We're not going to disclose, but I listened to it.
Yeah, we're not going to do that to ourselves. All right, last thing, my man. First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming on, and we could probably go another hour.
We probably could.
Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know we had been on an hour already. But I truly appreciate you coming on, man, because one, you're one of the guys in the industry I look up to. I don't say that. I know most people come out and say, yeah, I do. I look up to you because I've seen the hard work and I've seen what you can do. And when I see somebody who is as talented as you are, I can go and sit back and look and say, man, look at Danny, man. Danny's got to go. But I use it as motivation, when I see people like yourself doing really well in this industry, man. And I truly, 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 just appreciate you even sitting back and taking your time with me, brother.
This show is something, it's a bat signal thing. When my brothers, when I say my brothers in this industry come, I'll say this. Darrell's one of my brothers in this industry. So, so it was funny. We went to the Black Sports Symposium a couple weeks ago in Atlanta. We had formed a brotherhood between me and the guys there.
Right.
But on top of that, you got to understand the brotherhood was extended because, even though Raphael Haynes from the 3-point conversion wasn't with us, he showed up to lunch on Saturday. So we all had lunch with him Saturday. That's part of the brotherhood. My guy Darrell in this end right here, I met this guy at the Big 3 in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Him and Tyrone. I had a chance to meet those two outstanding brothers and also what they're doing Legacy Maker Sports. So when I first came to Virginia, the first phone call I made literally as I'm driving in the rain.
I remember that.
I'm driving in the rain with a car full of stuff. Okay, my car is full of moving to Virginia because I got married and we decided to get married, but not live in the same city for 2 months. So that was, like I said, part of my global pandemic story. But it's actually, someone wrote an article about it. Monique Judge wrote an article about my pandemic relationship. It's hilarious. But on the way, it was literally pouring down raining on 85. The first dude I called about anything in Virginia was the guy to my left.
That's right. I remember that phone call. I was sitting right here in the man cave when it happened.
And it's funny, during the pandemic, we were talking about, Darrell decided he was bored one day playing games and calling something on Facebook. And so we were talking, like, yo, you should do this because we had no sports.
It was nothing else.
Darrell saved us literally from sports. And he's like, yo, what do you think about this matchup? So I think if you go back to the brackets, I think it was NBA, the Hornets were on the brackets. He was like, man, I need a 15-16 team. Yo, put the Hornets in. Hornets got smashed, but he had to still. But
yeah, because I think they ended up playing the Lakers. It was rough. I felt bad for them. They took a. I mean, they lost by like 25. I can't. It was crazy.
But when I say the people in the industry, what you say, you talk about how why I am to everybody else. It's like the people in the industry are genuine. And Darrell's one of the most genuine people I know.
I appreciate that, bro.
I mentioned Raphael. Then you go back to I call the brotherhood of guys. You're talking Ty Ray and Ray Lynn, Mike Patton, Cortland Griffin, Ryan Jones, Rodney Richardson. You look at those people in that group, that's another part. Like I said, this group is extended out because even the people in this inner circle is people I still haven't met. There's still, I think you met Joe Cardoso over at Nuts and Bolts.
That's my guy. Yeah, Joe's going to be on the last episode of the season.
I still haven't met Joe yet, but
I actually haven't had a chance to meet him yet neither. But
I heard about the barbecue, Joe. If you're listening,
yeah,
but you look at the people in the industry and what I see now compared to when I first got this thing 2014, 2015 is the group of especially of black men together. And also not black men, but just black journalists in general. Because if you look at the female side of things, I saw you have a new reporter. Yep. She was killing it at the ACC.
Thank you, brother. I know she appreciate that.
She killed it. And I think Tyler Butler had one out there as well too.
Yep.
I couldn't remember her name. Sorry about that. Because she had the interview with McNabb the other day, and she's doing the thing. And then also on the 3-point conversion side, of course, there's Karita Parks. Darrell knows Karita really well because
Karita. You got Nashina, Karita.
I didn't even got to Nashina and Vashti.
Vashti, my girl Candy. I mean, there's a whole but Kelsey. I forget Kelsey.
Yeah, Kelsey, and then you have
Kelsey Nicole, the KNN.
You have Renee Washington. There's so many people, and then Ashley Baker. I can't.
Yep. Oh Ashley. Yeah, Ashley. Can't forget. Ashley's also going to be on this season too. So I can't forget.
So you look at the next wave of of journalists that are, especially of African American journalists. It's a future, but also at the same time, the people who are seasoned are all in this together. Whether we do it differently, we're all still connected, united in some kind of way. So I've always said to myself that if I can always help people in any sort of way, whether it be just one piece of advice, something that you could ask of me, I've always said I'm an open door. I don't want people to go through the things I failed at.
Right.
To avoid it. So if I can avoid helping your failure, it's something you got to put across. I'm a testimony.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, brother. That's what I'm talking about. All right, man. We're gonna finish it up properly, and I need you to. All right, I need you to leave your legacy here, brother. Before we get off of here, two things. One, if you got any special projects going on that you want us to know about, by all means, we want to hear about them. Obviously, we want people to know where they can find you, all that good stuff. And as well, what do you want your impact to be on the industry? What your legacy that you want to say when you're said and done, you didn't retire, you chilling at the house, I think when you're chilling at the house and all that good stuff, and you're not stressing about sports as much anymore. I know. Look. Hey, don't feel. It's all good, sweetie. It's all good. Look, my wife been banging on the door for 20 minutes. I already know how you doing. It's all good. Look, hey, we know how it go. But if you just want, like I say, just the opportunity to leave your legacy, what you want to have left behind, in this industry. And all that good stuff, my man.
So you listen to my show, as you see on the bottom of the screen. My show is on Sports Radio 96.5 at 8:50 a.m. I do host a show called Sports Insight 757 with my guy Justin Lee, former Norfolk State baseball player, Great Bridge High School, all-state baseball player. We host a show on Saturdays. Pretty soon it might be a little bit of an adjustment change. I don't know, potentially you might listen to us more than Saturdays, like maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in September. Hint, hint. Outside of that, you can find my work, the 3-point conversion for article work. I do have an NFL preview coming up. Unfortunately, the guys would not let me write on the NFC South I guess it's a rule.
They don't trust your judgment on the South, huh?
I'm gonna call Alex bad on this one. My guy Alex, who's actually in Richmond now. Conversion. Alex made a rule that you could not write about your favorite team or division because I guess the fandom rule. I am rejected about the Falcons for crying out loud. But no, you can check my written work at 3pointconversion.com. The radio work is over at 96.5 FM, 8:50 a.m. And the question is, what is my legacy? What do I want to leave? I got into this field, and one of the things, like I said, I've learned before is that a lot of times people don't really look out for you in the journalism field. And so with the legacy I've always wanted to leave for people, journalists in general, is the fact of I always wanted to help people, not for my own personal gain. I get nothing out of giving somebody advice. I get nothing out of it. When people say, "Oh, man, I owe you one," you don't owe me anything. The only thing, if I ever ask anything of you, is that you help the next person.
Right.
Because when I started this years ago, I really had no idea about direction. So every direction I've gone, like I said, I've hit the wall, I've hit dead ends, I've had the lives lived. I'm like a cat when it comes to I've died many times in this. So I realized when it comes to the things I've missed, the things pitfalls I've made, and the mistakes I made, if I'm willing to help somebody, if I can help somebody avoid that same pitfall, make that same mistake, not hit the wall, continue to keep going, I've done my part. And so the legacy is the fact of I was able, hopefully, to be able to inspire somebody, to help somebody get somewhere, to maybe open a door that never opened before, or help them to achieve the dreams they always wanted. Because I can look at my resume, I can look at if I died tomorrow, I've done almost everything on my bucket list. And for me, as far as a legacy when it comes to everything else, my wife, she spoke to a second ago.
Yeah, she made a quick appearance. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Miss Thompson said, "Hold on, wait about me."
I think the legacy I want to leave, just besides being a family man, my husband, is for my daughter. Darrell, we have kids. You understand that when you have a child,
right?
And the legacy leave behind is something that the child can be proud of. They say, "That's my daddy. That's my daddy." When my daughter sees me and she talks about school, or she'll point to something I've done. That's my daddy. That's my daddy.
Right.
I always want my daughter to know that. And I told her this the other night. I said, no matter what you do in life, she asked me, "Daddy, should I be a basketball player?" I said, "Well, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a basketball player?" "Yeah, I do." I said, because here's the thing: if you don't want to be a basketball player, Daddy's going to support you no matter what.
Right.
I said, you could be a basketball player, you could be a dancer, hell, you could be a damn dolphin. I said, if you want to be a dolphin, we're going to make you the best damn dolphin possible.
I love it. You're going to be the best dolphin possible. That's
we're
right.
We're going to get you some fins, and we're going to figure this shit out some way or another. But I think my legacy for my little one is the fact of, if I have more children, if God allows us to have more children, is that, you're just as much of a hard worker as you are with your spiritual side. So my thing is, and my wife has helped me with this. So it's only so much work you put in, but God's going to open doors for you and allow you to open doors if He sees you putting that work in. If you believe that He's going to open that door and you put that work in, He's going to see your work. He's going to know what you're asking for, and that door is going to open. And so I tell my daughter this all the time. I tell her, there's two things to it. You pray about it and ask for it within reason. Like if you're asking me for a car at 7, at 9, that's not happening. But if there's something you dream about and you dream, and it's going to move mountains. I went to our church anniversary last week, and the pastor who was from Richmond actually came to speak. He said 3 things. He said, in this year, there's 3 things I want you to do. I want you to dream big. And that means you take your dream to the biggest part of your being, whatever you want, no matter how big it is. Just dream big. And don't let people tell you that your dream is unattainable. Don't let people tell you it's not going to work, because people have told me this all the time. Dream big. You do more. So you put that work in. You put the work in not only on the spiritual side, but you do it on the day-to-day side. You put that in, and you be greater. And my point by being greater is you're being better than you are. So every day you become better than the day you were before. So if something that you might have missed the day before, do it better. we all have second chances. When you wake up in the morning, we have a second chance to do something we did not do good the first day. And so I've lived by that. And I've just thought about that, and I realized when I looked at my life, I have done everything under the sun unconventionally. Nothing has ever been the right way. Someone told me the other day, your resume does not really speak to what you see in your life. I said, no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Right.
So that's the legacy. That's the legacy I'm going to leave for my kid. Legacy I'm going to leave for the journalism industry. And for my wife's legacy is the fact that I got good life insurance. So
hey, I'm right there with you on that one, brother. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just say, look, Danny, once again, brother, truly appreciate you coming on. I want to, before we run, I want to make sure that I let you guys know what we got going on for episode 64 next Sunday. My man, Sean Parker, former PA announcer for the Minnesota Timberwolves, will be on. My man has got that golden voice. So we'll get a chance to, have him on next week and talk to him a little bit about his career with the Timberwolves and what's next for Mr. Sean Parker out there in this industry. So it's going to be an honor to have him on, but it was an absolute honor this week to have the man, myth, and the legend that is Mr. Danny Thompson. Danny, I appreciate you, brother, for coming on.
I'm not a legend. I'm still here. I
know, man, but you could be a legend right now. Like, I consider, I put to be all the time. Like, I'm a legend, regardless. If you're not, you got to be a legend in your mind to get to legend status, sir. You can get there.
I let people speak for me.
There you go.
I let people speak for me. So,
well, look, let me do the speaking. The legend, Danny Thompson, ladies and gentlemen, here with us here on episode 63 of 101 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Once again, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. It has been an absolute honor to have Danny on. Y'all take care of yourselves. Y'all be safe out there, and we can't wait to see you next week for another one. Until next time.
Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.
Welcome to the 101. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the